So the design of a community space will vary quite widely depending upon the different requirements of people that are running that community and the different context of where that community is placed. But in general, there's a couple of common themes that are commonly applied to the design of a community centre. So I'll go through some of those more common features here. So in this case, there's a central organisation of shared facilities. So in this case, there's a kitchen, a library, a function centre, and some letterbox, a sharing table around a shared courtyard. And they're all clustered around where you'd commonly drive in and park your car. So it's easily accessible and limiting the overall space of these different resources. So it's making them concentrated in one area that's most accessible to where you access the property from, and it's therefore taking up the least possible space so that more space in the wider areas can be devoted to different types of production. So some of the things that you might consider in this space, as well as these group facilities, is perhaps a demonstration garden. So if you're holding educational workshops in the function centre here, you've got an easily accessible site here, particularly if there's wet weather, where you can demonstrate different types of composting or bio-intensive gardening, or even there might be a little mini orchard in there too, or some chicken tractors and things. So quite small, high intensity, more demonstration type production systems could be located quite close to this common area. And then wider out from there, you often have your more common layers of zones that you have in a permaculture design. So you'd have your shared housing quite close to these shared resources. So there may be areas here for the different houses and a bit of privacy screening for each one, and some private garden space around each one, and orientation to the sun. So ideally these would be nice passive solar houses, maybe even made out of natural earth type materials, and each one is, because they're all quite closely in close proximity to each other in these shared resources, in consideration of that, having some privacy screening and some personal spaces in the context of their personal gardens around their properties. But at the same time, trying to limit the overall space of those different houses, so that instead of a normal housing structure where you've got a big grid network of all this replication of houses and yards and houses and yards, there's a more concentrated pattern around these common facilities where all the houses are. And then back from that, you've then got your gardens, so your main vegetable production gardens, and then the orchards, and they may be integrated into some grazing systems that could expand further out beyond that, and some forestry and native areas. So following your common zoning of permaculture design away from your house, the location of these different types of production. But the benefit is with a community is that instead of a normal situation where you've got perhaps your own lifestyle property and you've got to maintain and run all those different production systems yourself, in a community situation people can take on the operation of a particular production system and benefit from having all this trade and close proximity with other people running other production systems, which makes the overall management and operation of that system a lot easier, particularly if as is commonly the case, people have got to work a part-time or full-time job in addition to working the land and getting resources off that. It makes it a lot easier if you're in a situation where you can share the resources more easily with other people.